Never let biologists go into a pet store with the company credit card. Just saying. It's not exactly the wisest decision Onthank could have made.
So it's Monday and we're back at it again. So what we're up to today is really trying to get our tanks all put together so that we can get octopuses and have some place to put those octopuses once we get them. So we're getting all of our tanks put together and hopefully this will all be done within a day or so. One nice thing that happened on Friday that I never talked about is that my collection permit came through. I tend to be a bit of a procrastinator, and last year I procrastinated long enough on getting my scientific collection permit in, the permit that allows me to get octopuses, collect them, and bring them back here to do research on them. Was actually a bit late, and there was a combination of things. First, I got in late, and number two, the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife was a little bit uncomfortable with me collecting as many octopuses as I was and not returning them. So there was a little bit of miscommunication there, and so I ended up getting that permit late, and there was a little bit of drama about that last year. I got in late again this year, and actually I was a little bit worried about having troubles again, but it came through right in time, so I'm good there. So that's not holding us up at all. So now really we just need to get our stuff put together, and we can collect octopuses here as soon as we get all of that done. So what we have going on right now is in here we have our a couple of the tanks running. We're trying to find out, can we actually get these tanks down to 400 parts per million, because again, the water coming right out of the bay out there is actually, we just measured it, it's up around 800 parts per million CO2 in that water. So it's really high CO2, and now what we're trying to do is get this down to more like atmospheric CO2, which is more about 400 parts per million. We're doing this by just bubbling the dickens out of it and seeing if we can get that CO2 lower. And so we're watching that and trying to measure the CO2 as we go along to try to see that if that's working. But also we have to get all these sub tanks. So you notice we have all these little octo condos in here. This is where we keep the individual octopuses, and this hasn't been completely set up yet. We need to finish getting that set up, and that's the other process we need to go through there. So right now my students are at Home Depot getting some more equipment, or actually more tubing, Tygon tubing that we can use to pipe those things together, and a few other random odd here and there things. So yeah, that's kind of what we're up to today, is really getting all that put together.
We are here, Home Depot, there's an enter. Getting ready to pick up some equipment. Chris knew he was coming and he dressed to match. Because it's fashion first.
I actually work here, so.
And yeah, we're gonna go find some
What would you return first?
some interesting things. First we're gonna return some nipples and plugs, half-inch plugs. And then we're going to buy lots of tubing. So last week we broke a piece of pipe, our tubing in a little thing broke off. So we were wondering if we need a plastic nipple extractor so we can get that nipple out. Chris.
That's how we free the nipple. Hey.
So we need to adjust the inflow ports on this tank here. So originally we just had these elbows pointing downward like this, and that wasn't good because all the cold water was sinking to the bottom, which is kind of what we don't want. So what we do want is we're going to point these facing upward, and then we're going to take one of these and put it in here, and we're going to go drill some holes in this long pipe, and hopefully it will give a more even distribution of incoming seawater.
So I gotta go find a way to drill holes in these, which is gonna be really fun. So I guess it's time to go screw around in the shop.
up to today mostly is trying to get the respirometry systems ready so that we can throw octopuses in these as soon as we collect octopuses as well. So right now I just got my oxygen, well, late last week I was able to get my oxygen mass flow controller back from the company that adjusted the flow rate on this. And so I have that ready to go, but now I'm actually controlling it using some custom-made software that a chemistry professor, Anthony Smith, helped me out with and putting that together. And so now I need to adjust because right now it doesn't match up with what we actually get out from here. So we need to actually go through and I need to readjust the programming a little bit so that when we tell it to give it a certain flow rate, the program actually signals the correct flow rate to that mass flow controller. So what we're using this for is we have nitrogen, oxygen, CO2 coming out of these tanks, and then that gas is going into each of these flow controllers that then we can control how much is coming through each of these, and then we mix it into one single line, and then we can bubble the right amount or the right gas mix, whatever oxygen or CO2 mix that we want to have in there, we can have in there. And then we do that, we bubble that into these equilibration columns, and then the water goes into these respirometers so that when we put an animal in here, we can also control the gas environment in there as well. So yeah, that's what we're up to.
Stop number 2, Island Pet Center. What sorts of things can we find for housing our octos? Let's find an employee. Today we're looking for CO2 tubing and air stones. We're trying to get our octo homes set up so that we can bubble the correct amount of CO2 into the water. Fishies! Oh, they're so pretty. This little fish is really confused. So right now I am trying to troubleshoot some problems with my thermal gradient tank here, and I realized that I haven't really explained much about it yet. So I'm going to walk you through some of the important details of this contraption. So what I'm going to be using this for mostly is for one of my experiments for benthic octopus leiderma. And what's going to happen is one side of the tank is going to be cold water, which is going to be this side. And the idea is to create a horizontal temperature profile going from cold all the way over here and getting slightly warmer until we get to the other side. Now, the main hope is that I'll have some sort of like filming device up there. And I want to see when I place an octopus in this tank, what temperature will it prefer? Where will it migrate to be most comfortable? This is the main holding tank where the octopus will be moving. You'll notice that we have a couple things here. There's this lid, which we can pull up and out and close. And inside here we have this, which is an inflow port. And so water is going to come from these two coolers. So this cooler over here is a cold water reservoir, and we have a chiller hooked up to it right here. And that's at a chilly 41 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 4 degrees Celsius. And then it will recirculate through here. And then over here we just have some seawater, which is at about 57 degrees Fahrenheit or 13 degrees Celsius. And what's going to happen is I have these valves over here with the blue nozzles. It's going to come down and water is going to flow in here. And what happens is we can control actually how much water flows into the tank itself here. And when water flows out, it's going to go into this line here, and it's going to drain into this bucket. These are the return reservoirs. And so this is activated by a flow switch. This flow switch acts like a light switch if you were to turn the lights on and off in a room, except it turns on this pump. And this pump, you follow the line all the way up and around, actually feeds back into the cooler, which then the water in the cooler will flow back down into the tank. Imagine this fills up with water, and you can hear the water flowing back into the tank. Now, I'm really worried about these because this is the most likely place I'm gonna have a flood. If this flow switch doesn't work, we're gonna have water flowing out all over this room. So getting these properly situated is essential. I'm really nervous about starting this all up. One of the things I just noticed here is I was filling up this bucket and it's not level over on this side of the room. So that's gonna be interesting. And now I'm kind of worried that these coolers aren't level, but we'll have to see. So this is it. Hopefully I can get it up and running and not have any major floods, because the hope is that this will run for 3 hours. So for now I'm gonna test these reservoir buckets and make sure nothing floods.
Onthank, how much writing space did you have last year?
More than this. But this is awesome. This is great. Last year, I like really writing on the windows out there. The only glass in here is the coffee pot.
We could probably leave each other little messages in the morning on the coffee pot.
That'd be so cute.
Little good mornings. Good luck in lab today. You can do it. Your titrations will be.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. I'll be right back.
Thank you.
Oh! I'm very excited to have things to write on again.
This is great. It's like full size.
This is like
It's body size.
bigger
right
than
there.
me.
But I feel like it's actually better than when they're horizontal, because when they're horizontal, there's more area out of reach. This is like, we have,
Oh yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
we're doing squats anyway.